Alright, I am Ravishan from Arupaloka, and today we are going to be ranking the studio albums by the thrash metal pioneers Metallica. I was introduced to this band by my best mate Harindra when I was back in Sri Lanka, a teenager, and I went from listening to almost exclusively Sinhala language a cappella songs to heavy guitars, aggressive drums, and half man, half werewolf vocals, and did not look back. What can I say about Metallica as introduction that has not already been said for the past 45 years? They have been celebrated, deified, defecated upon, tarred, feathered, yet the one thing that even their most harsh critic cannot dispute is that their enduring legacy and influence shaped what we listen to as metal today from 1980s onwards. So they have 11 studio albums. I'm not counting the Garage Days Incorporated LP because that was just a bunch of covers paying homage to the bands that fathered them. I'm just going to be looking at their main catalog of full-length studio albums. So I've got my notes right here. Some spark notes. Metallica was formed in 1981. The founding members consisted of Ron McGovney, almost lost to the Metallica lore by now, but he was one of the founding members, and Dave Mustaine, who infamously split from Metallica to form another great, amazing thrash metal pillar, Megadeth. Good for him. And then, anyway, they morphed into the legendary 80s lineup. James Hetfield on rhythm guitars, Lars Ulrich on drums, Kirk Hammett on lead guitar, and Cliff Burton on bass. In 1986, tragedy struck. Cliff Burton sadly passed away, and enter Jason Newsted, who brought in this rumbly, lumbering, groovy bass into the mix. Again, in 2003, depart Jason Newsted, acrimoniously split. Enter Robert Trujillo, who has been with the band now, when you think about it, for more than 23 years. So, that is Metallica introduction. Without further ado, into the ranking. Coming in at last place, number 11, comfortable, confident decision for me is the most recent album from 2023, I think it is, yes. 72 Seasons. It's almost untitled on the front, but there's 72 in the back. This album garnered a whole lot of what, in my opinion, was undeserved fanfare. Can see the pictures of the wizened members of who shaped metal for years to come on the album. To me, at this point, Metallica sounds a lot like a Metallica tribute band. Fan service to certain more celebrated, more better remembered eras of their career, and really indulging themselves rather than making real music. That's my honest opinion. I know, by the way, that some of these opinions are going to offend my mate Harindra. Harindra, my friend, you're welcome. Anyway, moving on. The one highlight of this album to me was the song Inamorata, which is about 11 minutes long. It has an interesting uplifting harmony somewhere halfway mark of the song. But really, other than that, this album is just, to me, ultra processed, sweet, easy to consume confection, a commercial product. That's all I have to say about 72 Seasons. One pro though, amazing production, very clear and modern, but also has enough grit. On to number 10. I don't have a physical copy of this album. 2016's Hardwired to Self-Destruct. Again, this is an album that to me sounds a lot like they're indulging themselves, resting on their laurels, and really not that memorable. Just retreading old ground. But nevertheless, I think this album definitely had some moments of inspiration, some really memorable, ripping riffs, and it was altogether a genuine effort to write memorable songs. So, and also has a very cool album cover. Much better than the 72 Seasons, even though both are kind of minimal. Highlights from this album are Spit Out the Bone. Spit Out the Bone is an awesome old school thrasher and definitely the most memorable track on this album. There's also Moth into Flame, has a really memorable but very sugary chorus. And then Dream No More and Halo on Fire. If I had to score the songs of this album, I would say the mean, median, and mode of the scores would be around 2 out of 5, all across flat. So that's number 10. Moving on. I think all the albums from this point onwards, even at their lowest point, are good enough, noteworthy enough, worth talking about. Number 9 for me is from 1997, Reload. So this was their infamous 90s era, the tail end of the 90s era, the alt-rock, grunge influence, bandwagon hopping almost. Very divisive period in the Metallica catalog. It has some moments, again, inspired and emotionally sincere, but altogether, this album to me is a hunk of cheese. There's so much cheddar and ketchup on this album, and no real metal to speak of, other than a sheen that people mistake for metal from afar. But there's some really good songs that I revisit often. Fuel is a very popular opener, but I have to be one of the few in the Metallica fan base who find this song just annoying. The Memory Remains is a great song. Devil's Dance is okay. The Unforgiven 2 is definitely a worthy sequel to the great ballad by Metallica in 1991, the first, Unforgiven. Other than that, this album has Fixer, which is an awesome closer, this 7-8 minute long epic. In between, this album is really a chore for me to get through. So for that reason, this is Reload coming in at number 9. By the way, that is blood and urine on the cover. Very cool. Moving on. (2003) Saint Anger. Now, the internet would have you believe that this is the worst produced absolute nadir of music across all genres. I disagree. This was incidentally the first Metallica album I bought after being introduced to them. And it was quite a departure from their old sound and their new sound from the 90s. Almost just a one off. There isn't really a Saint Anger before or after. No doubt preempted by the horrible fan response this album got. Even people who don't listen to Metallica or metal know about Saint Anger. So before I get to really talking about the album, I'm just gonna issue an apology or defense for what people consider are just pure bad. The production and the snare drum. The production, I disagree. Bob Rock knows what he's doing, and this album has deliberately ugly, aggressive, abrasive, raw production. And that is deliberate. And I think it suited the kind of midlife crisis, introspective, angry, angsty music that this contained, which really represented the time and place that Metallica was at in 2003. They were burnt out from being successful, tired of being loved, and out came this. Having ruled out those, the production, the snare drum, I agree, is annoying. I don't know whose idea it was to replace the snare with a garbage can, but I think if used in moderation, it would have been a good stylistic touch. Anyway, that out of the way, the songs on this album, they are amazing. True, the guitars are simple, groovy, just slides and chugs, but I don't think a song has to be a arthritis-inducing workout for guitarists to enjoy. And Frantic is an amazing, really almost abusive opener. That lyrics are a little repetitive and sounds a little like outtakes from a therapy session, but I think there's a lot of emotional sincerity there. And Frantic is a really good opener. Saint Anger has a really nice contrast of salt and sweet, the really nice melancholic chorus and really groovy, crushing riff on the verse, which again comes from, I know it's a recycled riff from Master of Puppets. Still, I think the song has enough originality to stand on its own. Dirty Window, with that near annoying exclamatory lyric, Inspector, Judgmentor, something, something, Invictor, Defector, something, but amazing song. Invisible Kid, the drums are really effective in that. It's almost like the more raw garage version of a angsty Korn, this album. And My World and Shoot Me Again, I'm not that fond of, and I think could be collapsed into a really short single song or even just cut out entirely. But other than that, everything else on this album, Sweet Amber, Unnamed Feeling, which I think is the absolute highlight of this album, Purify, really ripping, chuggy song, like this serrated chainsaw that's cutting through your ears, all within my hands, so full of venom and hatred. I think this is an underrated, unpolished gem. By the way, the artwork is by long-term collaborator Pusshead, the artist. If you're a fan, you're probably familiar with the kind of bootleg covers and t-shirt designs that Pusshead has done. All right. Saint Anger. Moving on. Number 7, if my math is right, is Death Magnetic from 2008. This was the second CD by Metallica that I bought, and I remember when this came out, there was this tremendous hype and expectation, anticipation for this album. Everybody who felt left down by Saint Anger listened to the live experimental welcoming of the demo versions of these songs. I think they had different names at that time. And they all said that this was a return to form, return to 80s thrash. Is it a return to form? No. But what an amazing comeback album it is. And if you let go of all those expectations, this is an amazing album. Great cover art as well. That Was Just Your Life. Really rip your face, fast-paced opener. The end of the line is has that really eerie kind of harmonic minor run there. By the way, Saint Anger and Reload, that was Metallica shorn of double kick drums, no complex rhythms, and in Saint Anger, there were no solos even. But come Death Magnetic, all of that is back, and this was well received, rightfully so. Broken Beat and Scarred is, I think, a career highlight. Awesome verse and chorus, and The Day That Never Comes, very memorable ballad. All Nightmare Long, Cyanide, The Unforgiven 3 is definitely a worthy sequel, again, to the original Unforgiven. The Judas Kiss, Suicide Redemption. Suicide and Redemption, I think, is the first instrumental they did since 1988, and is a really meandering, complex, almost like a jigsaw puzzle of riffs and an overall great melodic segues. It's an awesome song. My Apocalypse, they always have this habit of bookending the album when it's a concept album with really aggressive short songs. And again, something to note is that this is a concept album. In their 90s, they really strayed from this idea of having 7-8 minute song epics and concepts, and they went to just hit songs, which trying to be a commercial band. But this is Metallica making a comeback to an experience that is supposed to be enjoyed as a single entity beginning to end. One thing to note, people who complain about Saint Anger's production, this album has, I think, the second worst production of any music album I have heard. The worst production in the world is probably Nathan's Madrigal from Ulver. This is a close second. The Rick Rubin, who is a producer, amped up the volume so hard. There is so much crackle and hiss and fizz in this album. The snare is just buried in crackle. The guitars, they're so trebly. The vocals make the speakers, push the speakers too much. And there's so much clipping. Do yourself a favor and buy the remastered for iTunes version. It's available as a digital download on Metallica.com, and it'll renew your appreciation for this album. It did for me. So yeah, Death Magnetic from 2008, awesome album. I frequently revisit this album. Moving on, we are now in number 6. Okay. So, 1983, Kill 'Em All, their debut album and genre defining opener to a career it was. I think at this point I lost almost half my audience. If anybody stumbles into this video, and I do have an audience, I think I lost half when I put Reload near the bottom, and I lost half now. This album, in my opinion, gets overrated. So many people out there put this up at number 1, 2, 3. Don't get me wrong, it's an awesome album. I listen to this all the time. But it is still an album that shows promise rather than delivering on those promises. Hit the Lights, The Four Horsemen is definitely the hint of what Metallica was to become. Ambitious song with multiple parts and rhythms. Seek and Destroy, another fan favorite, anthem rouser, stadium shaker. Phantom Lord, No Remorse, that's probably my favorite song, really groovy song from this album. Again, amazing album, no doubt, but if you're into this band and this is where you stop, I don't think you got the point of this band. Again, genre defining album. It wasn't anything like this. The sheer speed and performance, the attitude of the performance on this album, that is what you're getting. Fresh voice that has not been in the industry or metal before. They took all the bouncy gallops from Iron Maiden, all the moodiness from Judas Priest, the speed from Motorhead, and then they turned into this thrash metal. Alright, so that was number 6. Moving on. Next up, we have number 5, 1996 Reload. Reload, by the way, on the cover was blood and urine. This is blood and semen. It was a very divisive album, and I think there is a significant percentage of the Metallica fan base who just shoved this to the bottom of their list. I disagree again. I think this delivered on its intentions. This was supposed to be the broken cowboy saga. James Hetfield's dalliance with cowboy hats, boots, and country music. And it's awesome. If you forget that it's not a metal album, it's not even pretending to be. If you think of this as a response to 90s grunge and forget that this was made by Metallica, this is an amazing album. Imagine this as an amazing Alice in Chains album just put out by a different band. Ain't My Bitch is not a song that I'm very fond of, but from that point onwards, this album is just hit after hit, and there is, loosely speaking, a kind of theme and concept running across all the songs in this album. 2x4, The House That Jack Built, really slept on hit. Until It Sleeps is definitely one of the fan favorites from this album. King Nothing, to me, is a better version of Enter Sandman. Far more memorable and less annoying. Better lyrics too. Hero of the Day, this almost major key, weird, hot, cold kind of anti-war song. Bleeding Me, the song that closes out side A, has to be one of Metallica's best songs. It's this long, emotionally wrenching, just cry from the depth of the soul. Even if you're not a Metallica fan, or you might be a Metallica hater who just dropped out of the bandwagon halfway through their career, listen to that song. Side B, Cure is an okay song. Poor Twisted Me is the one song that I think could have been just cut down to maybe a minute. I think it's the same point over and over. Wasting My Hate, Mama Said is a great country song. Thorn Within, Ronnie, Outlaw Torn. Outlaw Torn is like the mirror opposite of Bleeding Me, and it's a great closer to this album. Again, I understand why this was divisive. Kirk Hammett has gone from being this shred god to a pentatonics and wah pedal abuser. Lars Ulrich has gone from doing this complicated pitter patter double kick madness to just D beats and 1, 2, 3, 4. James Hetfield has gone from insane precise rhythms to these bluesy grooves. Still, if you understand what this album is trying to be, it is a great album. That's the 90s Metallica with their haircut and eyeliner and all the regrettable 90s excess. Right. Some water. Moving on. Number 4 is from 1991, the Black Album, or the self-titled album. By this point, Metallica has grown tired of being a thrash band, or that's I think what they ended up telling people. This album sold a bazillion copies and got them the reputation of being sellouts. There is almost no thrash on this album, barring one song maybe. The drums have got simplified, the rhythms have got simplified, the songs are chopped up into small radio-friendly songs. This is the album where Bob Rock, who famously or notoriously produced Mötley Crüe, I think it was Mötley Crüe, one of those glam metal bands, got onboarded. And he had a different vision for the band. Some people blame Bob Rock on the change of direction from underground monsters to this neatly produced and PR'd and presented radio-friendly band. Either way, politics aside, this album has some great songs. Enter Sandman is the one song I don't like on this album. Again, like Fuel, I'm guessing for some reason it is an unpopular opinion. Sad But True is an amazing song. That should have been the opener for this album. I think they tuned down to drop D or something. And by the way, speaking of down tuning, that album Saint Anger from 2003 was a huge departure because they went down to, I think, drop C or something like that. James Hetfield even plays a 7th string on that some kind of monster song. It's really, again, go and listen to Saint Anger. I mean, if you take anything out of this ranking video, just go and listen to Saint Anger. I know it's down the list, but anyway, back to the Black Album. Holier Than Thou, really fast, in your face song. The Unforgiven is definitely probably their most lauded ballad from their career. Wherever I May Roam, with that kind of sitar opening, Through the Never, that is to me the best song of this album. Nothing Else Matters, yes, being overplayed to death, but still a good song. Of Wolf and Man, what an underrated song. The God That Failed, really heavy, gloomy. And My Friend of Misery, which is like the sister or brother song to The God That Failed. Those two are really underrated from this album. And it has a great album closer, The Struggle Within. So that is the Black Album. Why is it coming so low in this ranking? I think some of you might be asking. This is what people who don't listen to metal think metal is. I'm not even sure whether. I think this is on the periphery of what probably metal is. Nevertheless, undisputably, great songs. All right. Moving on. All right, these three albums. There is a gulf between everything we discussed before and what's going to come next. And really, it's sometimes difficult to figure out which order this should go. I think I know very decisively what my number one is. But when people talk of the influence of Metallica, it's really these three albums that they talk about. So number 3 is their sophomore album, Ride the Lightning, from 1984. So this came just 1 year after Kill 'Em All, and what a huge stride it was. They went from being this speed metal, nearly speed metal band into this band that made ambitious, harmonically interesting, epic songwriters. Everything on this album, just amazing. Fight Fire with Fire, which is a really, really angry opener. Ride the Lightning, the title track. For Whom the Bell Tolls, I think again is one of those popular songs from this album. Amazing mid-paced, sludgy song that is For Whom the Bell Tolls. Fade to Black again is an ultra popular ballad. Trapped Under Ice and Escape, if I'm not mistaken, James Hetfield is kind of not so hot on those songs and doesn't like to play them live. But I think that they capture, there was a side to the 80s metal, the kind of almost Anthrax-like punky attitude that those two songs capture, and I really like that song. Creeping Death, what an amazing song with Die by My Hand. Amazing song, anthem of a song. Call of the Cthulhu, this massive, really long, I think it's like almost nearly 7 minutes, instrumental, almost like an ode to power and ambition, and what an amazing song. It almost sounds, you can feel the Cthulhu rise out of the depths of the ocean. So that is number 3. Moving on, number 2, Master of Puppets from 1986. And this, for most people, is their defining album. Certainly if someone asked me what's the quintessential thrash album, I would probably point them to this album. I don't know what else to say about this album. It's just perfect from start to finish. Battery is a amazing opener. It goes from that acoustic, melodic, melancholy intro to this sudden freight train of a song. Master of Puppets, obviously their famous title track. The Thing That Should Not Be. Now that is probably my favorite song out of this. It has this weird otherworldly solo by Kirk Hammett with some weird sort of descent happening there. Welcome Home, again, great anthem of a song. Disposable Heroes. So I think that's the song more than anything else that really prefigured the Meshuggah gent era of metal. This weird reliance on like triplets and bouncy gallops and a whole lot of low E string abuse and overemphasis of rhythm over melody. I think that's how I would characterize that whole genty section of metal. And I think Disposable Heroes was probably the inspiration for all that. Leper Messiah, again, just like the thing that should not be a mid-paced monster of a song. Orion, Damage Incorporated. Orion is my favorite instrumental by them. It has this really melancholic, soaring, introspective harmony in the middle of the song when everything slows down and the bass starts picking up. Damage Incorporated. Again, Metallica does this thing where they bookend the album with the most violent songs. And this thing has this hand crippling rhythm. It's a pain to play on guitar. So, amazing album. Obviously, much celebrated. All right, so undisputed number one for me, 1988, I think, and Justice for All. People say that the production of this album sucks. I, for one, don't think that albums should have the same guitar tone, the same saturated low bass. I don't mind albums sounding wonky. This album does sound wonky. There's almost no bass. Notoriously, James and Lars turned down Jason Newsted's bass. By the way, by this time, Cliff Burton sadly has passed away. So a lot of there were lots of these complicated ideas, almost classical music inspired ideas that Cliff Burton brought into the band that defined this period, and that was sort of lost after this album, and there's this whole political debate about the bass not being present, James blaming it on Jason blaming it on James. Anyway, I like how this album sounds the way it is. It's this odd, really squashed, crunchy, mid-rangey tone, and just memorable. I don't mind, again, an album being weird. Blackened is my favorite opener of an album. Has that really earth-shattering breakdown, opposition, contradiction, premonition, compromise. I think I said it in the right order. And Justice for All is this, you could say bloated, but to me it's this majestic, multi-part epic, more than 9 minutes long, that song. Eye of the Beholder, again, is in that vein of Disposable Heroes, low E string abuse, emphasis on rhythm over melody. Amazing song, prefigures that inventive 90s period of Meshuggah-led metal to come. One is my favorite ballad by them. It has probably one of the best music videos to date. Shortest Straw has a really ugly sound to the song. There's a whole lot of chromatic runs and ugly notes and diminished intervals in this album, and it's so abusive, this album. The Harvest of Sorrow is such a sleeper of a song, mid-paced and heavy. The Frayed Ends of Sanity, such an underrated song. It has that weird slidey, breakdowny section. To Live is to Die, where they feature, in honor of Cliff Burton, who sadly passed away, one of his kind of fragmentary poems is all, for the rest of the song, it's entirely an instrumental and really memorable. Every single minute of those 9-something minutes. Dyer's Eve, again, one of those really percussive, angry, violent bookends to closes to an album. So that's it, the ranking of Metallica studio albums. Bonus CD, this is S&M, Symphony of San Francisco and Metallica, the live album they did. There are only two, if I'm not mistaken, only two original songs on this album. No Leaf Clover and I forget the next one. They're from that kind of reloady era. But this is also interesting because Michael Kamen from the Symphony does a really good interpretation of that 80s stuff, where he introduces all these harmonic counterpoints to all those low E string chugs. The Call of the Cthulhu version on this album, sometimes I wonder whether it's better than the original. So that's S&M. So that brings to a conclusion the Metallica ranking. If you listen to the end of this video, stay tuned for more Arupaloka singles coming out. The first two singles by Arupaloka are already out. I'll link them somewhere. Probably gonna do some more of these ranking, talking about music, talking head vlogs for this channel, along with the original music by Arupaloka. Probably going to do Slayer the next time. So like this video, something, thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you.